What is up, my beautiful people? Welcome back to episode 13 of the Bling and Branding Podcast, where we come to be entertained, educated, and elevated. In this episode, I sat down with Charlie Saffro. She is such a boss lady, the CEO and founder of CS Recruiting, where she works for not the most glamorous industry ever, very much male dominated, but has found her niche in the fact that she does everything she can to provide a really holistic experience to everybody involved in her company. And she's just such a positive light that radiates good vibes on LinkedIn. And I've honestly been following her for a few years. She's such an inspiration to me. So I'm so grateful that I got the chance to finally sit down after years of us engaging with each other to, chop it up and get to know each other. So without any further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. See you on the flip side.
Hi, Ricky. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. You and I have been in close proximity for 3 or 4 years now. And it's weird. This is the first time we're face to face, I think, isn't it?
It is, but I feel like we're old friends. It feels very familiar to me. So maybe our souls crossed in a former life, or we just really know each other from LinkedIn, and this is our life meeting.
I like it. I want to go with both. I think that, we were besties in a previous lifetime. I like that narrative. So I want to start off really lighthearted this morning. It is Valentine's Day. And I obviously did, a deep dive into your beautiful LinkedIn profile, which is heavily optimized and very well organized, by the way. So kudos to that. But in your about section, you have a few things listed that you can't live without, which I think is so cute and telling of your personality. But I would love to know, to start us off this morning, what your go-to coffee order is and an audiobook that you think everybody should listen to because it's fire as heck.
All right. My coffee order is not that exciting, but it might surprise people. I go to yoga most mornings at 6 a.m. and I pass 3 Starbucks, but I actually go 2 blocks out of my way to go to McDonald's because that's my jam. So I get a large cream from McDonald's pretty much every morning.
Oh my gosh, I was not expecting that. I love that for you.
Right? Starbucks, and yeah, I don't mind Starbucks, but I prefer McDonald's. And I'm a huge Audible listener. I'm a huge reader, so I've always got multiple books going on at a time. Such a hard question. I have so many books I like to recommend, but I would say one that has stuck with me for years is Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. And
Yes.
He just came out with a new book, but Think Like a Monk, it's people will probably look at the cover and think it's not for them. I'm not spiritual or it's too woo. And it's just an amazing story of his journey, part memoir, part personal development, professional development. So many good nuggets that and things that I still quote out of that book. And I probably read it 3 or 4 years.
I love that that's your answer because I'm going to be so honest with you. That's the only audiobook I've ever experienced. And he actually changed my life with that book. He said a couple of things that just I incorporated into my life that totally shifted everything. And one of them, it sounds so insignificant, but he said to change your alarm sound to something that's less abrasive. Right? Oh my gosh, I changed it from that wah 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 to the da 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 da. It makes such a difference in the morning.
That is so funny. I did that years ago, and I actually told my teenage son that the other day because he gets up to the most annoying blaring alarm, and I was like, "You can control that. You can control how you enter your day." And so we found it for him, but I agree. Such a minor little thing that you're just why why don't I make that change and add a little more positivity or joy into my day?
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh. What a great start. I love this so far. This is amazing.
We'll have a full book club chat later.
Absolutely. So, Charlie, I know you have a very colorful, very entrepreneurial background. So, how about you just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'll try and keep it high level. Today, I am the founder and CEO of CS Recruiting. We are a third party recruiting firm. We specialize in logistics, supply chain, transportation, the entire industry. We work nationwide, and we've got a team of about 25 people. I had an interesting journey to entrepreneurship. I never really intended to start a business. Long story short, I was exposed to the logistics industry in a recruiting position that was new for me at that point in my career. And after about 4 years of working on the corporate side, my company was acquired. And I started to just put myself out there as a freelance recruiter. Again,
Mm-hmm.
like no, business plan, no investors. I was like, I just want to keep busy and have a side hustle. One
Yeah.
thing led to another. Opportunities were there. And I had that, moment where I was a solopreneur that had to make the decision, is this what I'm capable of? Or do I take advantage of opportunities and scale and hire and grow a team? So I took that plunge, and fast forward today, 14 years later, we're, working with hundreds of hiring companies across the company, and we've
Yes.
placed thousands and thousands of people in roles. So it all worked out.
Yes, it did. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I came to follow you at the beginning of my logistics career, kind of beginning. And I started to, try to post more on LinkedIn. And I noticed back then in like 2021, nobody was using LinkedIn like a social media platform. And I was just like literally regurgitating things off of sales decks, and it was so dry. But I came across you, I came across Darren McKee, and I came across someone else, but people that were really using the platform to like capitalize on what makes their company great, and capitalizing on personal experiences and adding personality into things. And I was just like, oh, like we can do that on LinkedIn. So you were actually a part of a big inspiration for how I found my personal branding voice. So thank you for that.
My absolute pleasure. And I just want to like touch on that because I've been on LinkedIn for probably 15 or 16 years, and
Mm-hmm.
I did not post a lot of content until 2019, 2020, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just that idea of like, do people care about me? Am I going to come off
Yeah.
as like a narcissist talking about my opinions or my advice? And then you just realize like people want to work with humans, not
Mm,
logos. And
yes,
as I started to just put more stuff out there, I was like, this is what people engage with. So I might as well be
absolutely.
real and authentic. I feel better about it. They enjoy it. So I'm so glad to hear that I inspired you. Thank you for saying that.
No, of course. You were totally like a pioneer, especially in the logistics community. But you also are very much big into the importance of mental health and being like the ideal version of yourself, which I super love. And I'm all on board about that. You say a lot of really awesome things also on LinkedIn. But what are some of your practices that, put you in the best frame of mind possible to have the best output?
It's funny because I'm not a consistent person. Like I can't follow the same process every day with, anything internal at the
Oh, I get
organization,
that.
but you get it. Like, I'm very inconsistent. I do brush my teeth every day, and I do meditate every day, and that
Okay.
has really been my, I'd say, like my sanctuary. Just discovering
Mm-hmm.
meditation and like committing to the practice. I've gotten from this point where like, oh, it's 4 o'clock. I have to meditate. To like, oh, I want to meditate, and I get to meditate, and it truly just clears my head. So it's only 20 minutes of my day, but it's that time that is reserved for me. There's no phones. My family respects the privacy and the quiet. I'll have a really balanced day if I could also get a walk in. So
Mm.
take my pup on a 4 mile walk if the Chicago weather allows. And that's where I really can clear my head. And, it's like when you're in the shower, like that's when the thoughts come, not when you're sitting in front
Yes.
of your laptop. So I really do try and carve out that time. Although I will say there are days where I give advice that I should take. And, there's days like, what happened? Where did the day go? I didn't do anything for myself, but usually I could break away and find something to do to give back to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like so many people underestimate the power of a good walk.
So true.
I
like
I
there were
love Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, in Arizona, you can. Like, there were a good 3 weeks in January where it was just either too icy or there was too much
Mm,
snow or it was below, 0, but it really affected my mood, like, not being able
mhm.
to have that outlet. Even I couldn't even take a walk for 2 blocks, it was so bad outside, but
Yeah.
now we're not quite at spring, but at least it's sunny. I'll bundle up and make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because your guys' winter is our summer here in Arizona. Like, we cannot go outside for 3 months during the summer because, I mean, you can, but it's like so miserable. It's like 115 degrees and
Okay.
like you're outside for 5 minutes and you're like drenched in sweat and you're like, oh, like you feel the sun radiating, crushing your soul.
We
Uh,
just want what we can't have, right?
yeah, right, right. So Charlie, you are obviously a female. What is it like being a female CEO in a very heavily male dominated industry? Do you find it difficult? Did you find it difficult at first to get a seat at the table, or what was that like for you?
Yes, I did find it difficult, and I think everyone, whether you recognize it or not, experiences some level of imposter syndrome in their
Mm,
professional life. And
mm-hmm.
that's really what I felt in the beginning. My experience was in the industry, but I pivoted in my career. So a lot of that for me was fake it till you make it and just like dive in to learn as much as I can and prove that even though I may be a female or I may not have come from the traditional background, I know what I'm talking about and I know the industry and really know recruiting and have the network to support that. I think you and I have chatted about this before, that having a boy's name has definitely
Yeah.
worked to my advantage. It's like, I mean, LinkedIn has obviously brought, there's a photo attached to my profile and people can
hmm
see that I'm a female if they go on LinkedIn, but I probably still get an email every day that says Mr. Saffro or a piece of
Yeah.
mail addressed to me. That assumption. And I used to fight it. And then I like slowly started to embrace it. I'm like, well, if that's what got me the meeting, wait till I
Yeah.
show up and then they'll see. But no, I'm kind of just accepting it as like, okay, people remember me. And if people are, want to talk to me because they assume I'm a man, I'll go with
hmm
it
Hell yeah.
until I reveal and surprise them.
Yes, use that to your advantage. Oh my God. When I was recruiting for Ivana, and I would get, people applying to the job, and a lot of people don't do their research, especially for those entry level positions. They're just like, oh, okay, I got an interview. They would expect a man to be on the video when I would open, the meeting, and the shock on their face, because it's like a virtual
Like,
like video call. They'd be like, oh, Ricky? I'm like, uh-huh.
I've gotten on calls and they're like, "Are we waiting for Charlie?" And I'm like, "No, I am Charlie." But like
Oh.
they're a man. So no, I've flipped my narrative. I used to really just like resent my parents for giving me a name that I was always standing out or people would always question. And as I've gotten older, I've realized
hmm
like I gotta leverage that and it's worth something.
Absolutely, it is. That's such a great mindset to have. I love that you were able to
You
kind
know
of flip that and use it to your advantage. That's awesome.
yeah.
Another thing that I actually really, really love about your kind of whole business philosophy, is like you do a lot of things to keep your employees engaged, even though you are fully remote now. And honestly, I see it all over LinkedIn. I see people that work for your company that are like, oh, this happened today, or like, I love CS because of X, Y, and Z, or, paying it forward because we do this fun program. And it's so awesome to see that you have genuinely put all these people in a position where they feel the need to share how much they love your company, which is very difficult to do. So I salute you. But
Thank you.
how do you come up with these ideas, and how did you begin to build something like this?
Yeah, it's been a long journey. And I would say, when I started the business, I've always been the same person, and I care about people, and I have empathy and compassion, and I'm not afraid to admit it. And I like to be, generous when I can. But we really pivoted our strategy post
Mhm.
2020 when we went remote. We had some leadership changes, and really just had like a very firm commitment to put our people first. After years of me hustling and, being the face for the company, I realized like I need to empower others. I need to delegate. I need to step up into leadership. And I really believe that, the customer will be satisfied if your employees are satisfied. They are the frontline representation of your
Absolutely.
leadership team. So, like, take care of your employees, focus on them, and treat them the way you want them to treat your customers. And it becomes very organic. Like, you think of, when you go into Trader Joe's or Nordstrom, like that is that mentality, and it works.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think so many companies miss the boat on this, that if you focus on your employees' well-being and you focus on them as a person and, their career growth, and you focus on all that stuff, then their output becomes a lot stronger and a lot higher quality. And then in turn, your customers win, and it becomes this great symbiotic relationship. And, that's just what happens just by focusing on, the people that make up your organization and not just, sales.
Exactly. No, that's exactly the way I think of it is, you know, try to satisfy them, try to keep morale high, try to keep them happy. I will tell you, like, there's probably a very few times when every single person on our team would say, like, I feel fulfilled and, I'm a 10 out of 10. But that's what keeps me going is just knowing that it's
Mm-hmm.
like small changes. Can we put new policies in place? Can we shift our philosophy on this just to provide more support to our team? And at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, like they feel seen and heard. And that's our objective with everything we do.
Absolutely. You do this one thing in particular, actually, that I super appreciate, because who doesn't love recognition? Whenever it's somebody's anniversary with you, you do this super in-depth profile about like all the things they've accomplished and fun little tidbits about them as a person, and a nice little headshot. And it's so freaking cute. How long do you spend on those things? Because those are like in super detail.
Thank you. I'm glad you love them, and I will not take credit for them. We have a team, and our marketing team really
Mm,
handles those. But I
mm-hmm.
will tell you, one thing that we've built into that like whole promotion or anniversary process is a lot of the comments that you see on that image come from team members. So when it's
Oh,
somebody's anniversary or promoted someone, like really sending that message out to the team and like, what do you think of when you think of this person, and what have they done for you in your career? So making sure they just feel the love. And I love like the, love languages concept. And there's this
mm-hmm.
other version, like workplace appreciation languages. And just knowing that like everyone needs to feel recognized in a different way. And you could do it one-on-one, you could do it publicly. But my favorite thing is like when we post on LinkedIn for one of our employees, and then I see their spouse commenting, or a lot of times like their parents proudly commenting. And nobody's going to
Yeah.
say no to that type of public recognition when they really deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that it's like a conjoined effort by all of their colleagues. That makes it like so much better.
Yep. Not just me, not all on me at all, but I support it and I love to promote it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So obviously, in the 14, 15 years, there's probably been some mistakes made. Would you say there have been any that were the most beneficial to what made your career or business that it is today that you'd like to share?
I mean, so many. I'm like, which one should I share? Which mistake should I share? Um, I'll share two high level internally and externally. And I think internally, I will be the first to admit that we are professional matchmakers. This is what
Hmm.
we do day in, day out. But we've made some of the wrong hires for our team over the years, and we have to
Hmm.
recognize that. And that I'm a total silver lining person. So,
Yeah.
okay, they weren't the right fit, but like, what did we learn from that? And there's usually something you can learn that you could start to identify, like everyone on our team is rejecting this person, or, felt they weren't the right fit for this reason. Now that is part of our hiring criteria moving forward. And it's really helped us define who we want on our team from a cultural standpoint, what type of soft skills we want. It's almost like knowing what doesn't work has really pushed us to find what does work in a way. And so just learning from all those different situations. And then externally, early in my career, we were probably like 5 employees at this time. I was invited to a prospect's office, a potential client, to meet with their team and talk about some hiring needs they had. And we'd had a lot of different phone calls. They knew our spiel. And when they invited us out, I understood it as like, come see our office, meet everyone in person, and then we'll start working with you and get some searches going. And when I got there, they brought me into a conference room and they sat me down and they're like, okay, you're the second vendor of the day. Do you want to plug in your presentation and get ready for the leadership team that will be here in 5 minutes? And it caught me so off guard. I did not have a presentation prepared. And I just assumed exactly like I was the only, like, oh, they've been courting me. We've been talking.
Yeah.
So this is just the final they want to shake my hand. And I'm a very competitive person. So it was like the minute I found out I was being evaluated, against other competitors,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I was just like so full of regret. And I'm like, I didn't ask the right questions. I had plenty of time
Oh,
to prepare.
yeah.
And I learned, I mean, and I think about that. I'm such an over preparer now, but I feel like it taught me so much about just showing up as your best self and collecting the right information so you can do that.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I have definitely been in a situation similar to that where my heart just sinks to my butt and I'm like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing because
Oh,
you could have done better.
yes. Yes. Oh my God. Oh my God.
You
So tell me more about that. Were you like all like, oh, let me just like find the presentation, or were you like honest about it? Like, how did that play out?
We did not win the business. I will be very
Mm.
honest. We did not win it. And I actually still am connected to the person who had brought us in, and we joke about it all the time. And now, 8 years later, that, you were unprepared and you looked like a deer in headlights. And we saw that. No, I think I just ad-libbed it. And I was like, oh, I
Mhm.
don't use a formal PowerPoint. Let me talk. But that wasn't what they were looking for. And again,
Yeah.
I could have, should have, but
Would have. Yeah.
every day since then, I have probably been over prepared.
Yes. Okay. Well, yeah, that's a great one to make early on for sure. And I totally get I have figured out how to do every way wrong, and that's how I get to the solution. Like, for example, this podcast, I was not recording with professional equipment. I did not do my research on like the best way to like house the podcast and edit it. And I didn't do any of that. And to be frank, it sounded like shit the first like 4 or 5 episodes. And it was so embarrassing because I would hop on, this sound trap is what I used, and it like never worked the way it was supposed to. So I'd be like fumbling around as the guest got on there, and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
And you've already like used their time and had a great conversation and you can't,
Hmm.
yeah, that's frustrating. Right. You learn once and then you're like, okay, noted.
Absolutely. And definitely with the help of my amazing partner, Eric. Shout out to you, baby. Because without him, I would not be where this is today, or, anything really, since shit kind of hit the fan for me at the end of last year. So have to shout him out real quick.
Well, Eric, you deserve it. I hope he's listening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what do you think is up with all the buzz about the freight recession that's happening right now? And are you guys kind of looking for ways to pivot during this time, or, how are you guys kind of handling that?
Yeah, I mean, it's real. I don't think there's anyone in this industry that would deny it. I think there's a lot of viewpoints on, when we're going to bounce back and when we were at the lowest, which hopefully is behind us. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's just a cycle. And we have seen it with our job postings. If people are buying less, then they're manufacturing and distributing less. And that leads to less, demand to hire. So I got a little bit ahead of this unknowingly. And we
Mm.
started to think about launching a value added service that's really more talent advisory, consultation, just
Hmm.
leveraging so much data that we sit on, years and years of knowledge, years and years of anecdotes and conversations from both the job seeker and the employer. And so it's been a slow build, but this is the year we're really coming to market with our consulting solutions, some thought leadership, like one-on-one coaching. We're doing some workshops, both with like larger associations and private workshops for companies that really just want to, enhance their process, whether it's, setting themselves up to hire and the whole hiring process, or interviewing, or even the onboarding and everboarding. Our team has seen it all. And now, we're just looking to share the wealth, share the knowledge. Like we were talking about before, we've seen what works, but maybe more importantly, we've seen what doesn't work. And that's where we can leverage those insights.
I think that'll be actually that'll be such a hot commodity. I feel like there's so many like startups in logistics specifically. And, it's for the most part just a bunch of guys that were like, we want to start our own brokerage, but they don't know jack about, onboarding, hiring, how to keep an employee happy, like any of that stuff that's like super important to the success of a business. And especially, with this recession coming, if you're not keeping your employees happy, and, that's not the forefront of your kind of process, when this shit hits the fan, like it's not going to be good. So I think that you guys definitely are ahead of the curve. I had some like special magic 8-ball telling you, this is coming. So that's awesome for you guys. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was just a result of like, educating our clients and kind of like restating the obvious a lot. Like take care of your people, focus on engagement, focus on culture, and the business will come. But we've seen enough demand and need for that, advice and that type of messaging and grooming that just excited to really dive into it and be able to offer more to support our recruiting services.
Absolutely. And, every recruiter, right, has kind of a way that they believe is best to start off pre-screenings, to start off interviews. What is your philosophy for that, to get a candidate like comfortable and ready to have, a really transparent conversation?
You've got to break the ice. Like we're so past those days of a candidate sitting down and, right away they're throwing a question, name a situation when this happened or you did this. Just get to know the person. And like, that's how I approach every meeting or interview. Now that we're doing a lot of them virtually, I don't know if I would say I'm nosy, but I'm always like looking in someone's background and I'm like, oh, is that your dog on the couch? Or like, oh, I see the sun shining. And great conversation. There's always a question you can ask. We have one client that starts out every interview just asking the candidate, like, what is your favorite day of the week and why? And he says, and I kind of get it, like it sets the tone for the whole conversation. And he's like, I could probably finish the interview after they answer it because I know what I need to know, but it's kind of fun. Everyone can answer it. It catches you off guard, but it doesn't really like, make you think too hard. So that's my advice. Like have one question that you always go with, or a series of just easy questions that will warm them up. And you guys can just make like a human touch point before you dive into it.
Absolutely. I so agree. I knew you were going to say this because I just feel like I know you, my soul sister. But honestly, like those questions that like are meant to trip people up and bait people, and like those like weird situational questions where it's like, tell me about a situation where this specific thing ensued. It's like, ugh, ew. Like don't make people feel uncomfortable and like panic. Like you're trying to understand who this person is and their work ethic. You're not trying to like test them.
Exactly. And yes, like technical skills are important for a lot of positions, but most hiring decisions are made on those soft skills, those personality traits, like reflect who you are, and that is brought into the workplace. Like if you are ethical and responsible and strategic, you will show up that way professionally too. And so do you have a question you go with, Ricky? Like what is your like break the ice question?
Yes. I always ask for them to tell me their favorite hobbies or interests outside of the workplace. And it's funny because like I can tell when people are super analytical and like not really listening to what I say. They'll like, well, at this last job, and they start like going to their work history, and I'm like, no, man. Like, let's like, do you like to golf? Do you like to go on hikes? Do you have a dog? And I'm like, oh, you want to know about me? And I'm like, yeah, like I want to know about you. What makes you passionate? And they'll be like, okay. And then they like, we start on this really cool conversation. I've had people tell me like the weirdest things, like specific crocheting and like different like ultimate frisbee hobbies and making clothes for their dogs and like just like really cool stuff. And I like you are, I'm genuinely curious and I like to know what people like, what makes them tick and happy. Because you know, I can get a sense of who that person is by the way they describe their passions. And very quickly, if somebody's like just not listening and trying to get through the interview, I'd be like, okay, like, I don't know if you're really understanding what I'm trying to say here. And another question I think that would be a huge differentiator would be like, why do you want to work for Freightvana? What attracted you to apply for this role? And that's when I know if somebody actually like looked into us, like at the very least went on our website or like looked at our social presence to know like we did things differently. And if they were like, oh, like I really want to be in freight tech, I'd be like, okay.
I love that. And I would say that is like, I don't even know if I would say extra credit or bonus points, but if I'm interviewing someone and they just like the smallest reference that they took the time and they're being intentional with their interest in our company, like that says everything to me. I interviewed someone not too long ago that, you know, they just went onto our company LinkedIn, and a couple days prior, we had done a community service volunteer event, and they just asked about it. And they're like, which one did you do? Because I saw you offered 3 different options. And I was like, you know, check, like you did your work. And like that shows me that you cared 90% more than most people. So that's a good little tip for anyone, any job seeker, or just like making the connection, like, oh, I saw you went to college here, or I saw you used to work at this company, like that you put the effort in.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, humans want to connect with humans. And if you make any experience, whether it's an interview, a sales funnel, like outreach, if you make it about the human connection, then, you know, it's going to be so much more successful than, you know, if you try to hide behind a logo or some corporate jargon or whatever.
Always. You'll learn that lesson over and over.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you also have an incredible brand awareness, not only within the logistics space, but just in general. What would you say is kind of your secret sauce for that?
It's being authentic. Like really what I said earlier, how for years I either avoided posting or I kind of like stuck to my script of, you know, here's 5 interview tips, or, you know, here's the best way to negotiate your salary. And I really stayed within this lane of like, I am a recruiter in the supply chain industry. So I either post about recruiting or I post about supply chain. And I think what's happened, like my evolution is as I've assumed a leadership position, I've always known that culture and engagement are key for business success, but I'm now experiencing it firsthand. And it's almost made me like kind of obsessed with culture and, you know, what little change can we make to our process or the way we present this or the level of transparency to really make our team members feel like they belong here and that they want to be here. And that led me to sharing my voice on other topics and feeling comfortable talking about being a woman in our industry, being an entrepreneur with an untraditional story, being a leader that, you know, probably does things that others would not agree with, but it's what's worked for us, or, you know, I'm avoiding what hasn't worked. So I think just like it's part courage. Like I finally just one day had the courage and got the response that validated that that's what people wanted to hear. And after that, I'd say it's truly, and I know you post this way too. It's like, what's on my mind? What's going on? What do I want to share? And truly like seeking engagement. Like I'm putting this out there because I'm curious what other people think. So yeah, being authentic. And I know that's, you know, it's an easy response, but I do think it's true. Like being brave enough to be authentic, maybe.
No, I mean, it's hard putting yourself out there day in and day out on a social media platform, that's traditionally supposed to be very corporate.
Right.
And like, sometimes we don't get it right. Obviously, sometimes they're a total flop and like you have to be prepared for that. And the first couple times like something went sideways that I posted, I was like, "Oh, like can I continue on this path? Like this is scary." But honestly, it's helped in done so many more things for my career than it's hurt, and you just kind of have to be willing to put those walls down and be super vulnerable online, which is very scary. And it's not a cop out to say, it's not too easy to say being authentic is, the answer, because it's really hard to be authentic for, however many people to see on the internet. So I very much applaud you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm sure we've both faced this, that like you get this courage to be authentic, you share something, and then the trolls come out and the
Mm,
haters and the DMs. Oh man. But I've just kind of committed to, like, if something is very important to me, even if it's, I try to stay away from politics and religion, but
yeah.
something is important to me, I'm going to speak up about it. I mean,
Hmm.
our town, I live in Highland Park, Illinois, where we had the 4th of July shooting a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And I've openly about the situation and gun control, and I get so many DMs on those days where I post about a topic like that. And I've just learned, like, this isn't something I probably would have spoken out about before it became personal to me, but now it's
Yeah.
personal now, in my community, and I'm going to share what I'm feeling, and if it impacts one person, then it was worth it.
Yeah.
So you just got to get over the hump of the haters, because they'll always be there, just kind of trolling around, looking for something to slam.
Absolutely they will. Absolutely they will. So in what ways would you say that your personal brand has kind of guided your business and vice versa, like that evolution of that?
I mean, I think they're kind of one and the same, and maybe that just,
Mhm.
supports the authenticity, that what you see is what you get. And while I'm not a perfect leader, and I definitely have made mistakes and learned from them, I try to use my best judgment and to lead with our team first. And so
Mhm.
I put it out there, and I will also put it out there if I'm wrong, or, I need to be, humble or have some humility in situations. So I think that is just, it is what it is. Like what we put out there, I live up to it. And
Mhm.
what that has done for our brand, obviously awareness and,
Mhm.
maybe hopefully like respect from the outside, but it's organically created this community that has truly led to business. And so, there is an ROI behind it. It's not something I can like actually measure super accurately, but the brand we've built has driven our business and has increased awareness and done, all the lead gen things it's supposed to. So I'd say there's, the human element that adds a lot of value, but
Mm,
also
mhm.
the bottom line element there too.
Absolutely. What's any advice that you would give to young entrepreneurs starting out in whatever industry, whatever business, like just right out the gates? What do you think is the best kind of tidbits that you would give that type of individual?
Oh man, so much. But I would say I almost think of growth as like, for me at least, like I opened Pandora's box. Like the minute I decided to go from a solopreneur to an entrepreneur, and
Mhm.
I don't even know if that's the right terminology. The moment I decided to hire my first employee,
Uh-huh.
you just are now creating a need to engage that person, and that then starts to form your culture, which starts to form your retention strategy, which then just cycles right back into your recruiting and your future
Mhm.
hiring. And so I guess my advice is like, when you are ready to commit, think it through. Like
Yeah.
think through their second hire look like, and it's not just about what you need from these individuals to deliver. It's, what do they need from you, and what can
Mm.
you do? Cultures are built by default and also by design. So if you're
Yeah.
designing your culture, like, take control and have some ideas, and at least know what are your values, what are your philosophies before you get too far. Because it's like, once you've opened Pandora's box and you're 5, 6 employees in, like, it's real, and it's
Yeah.
on you to, establish some boundaries and like, what
Mm-hmm.
is the vibe that your company brings? So that would be my advice is like, move slowly. It's super exciting, but just be
Mm-hmm.
mindful to do it the right way as much as you can.
That's some great advice. I love that. I love that so much. Because, yeah, that's the beginning. That's the foundation that you're laying. And that's great. That's great saying those two things side to side. It either happens by default or happens by design. And when you design it, you have control over it. When you just like let it happen, then it's kind of, up to fate to decide. So that's a great tidbit. I love that. What is the
Yeah.
legacy that you would like to leave as a leader?
Probably just what I'm all about. Like, see people as humans,
Mm-hmm.
and this idea of like, it is, leadership has an opportunity to influence, and truly everyone is a leader in some way. Like, we are influencing other people all day, whether we know it or not. But there's a lot of talk how, these future generations are entitled and like they want this, and this. And part of me is like, let's listen to them because they're steering us to a better work-life balance. They're not just working for a paycheck, they're working for a purpose, all things that like our workforce deserves in the future. And
Mm-hmm.
so I hope that the imprint I'm leaving is just speaking up for the employee, but
Mm-hmm.
also doing it from a reasonable point of view. Like, I am a leader, I know what's possible and what's not possible, but
Mm-hmm.
the intentions are there and it's the little things that add up.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love that. This was such an amazing conversation, Charlie. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm so glad we finally got to at least virtually see each other.
Me too. I'm so glad we got to connect. And now we'll probably keep running into each other.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Is there anything that you would like to leave with the audience before we sign off here?
Oh, man. No, I loved our conversation. We dropped a lot of good nuggets along the way. So I know people will be listening to this after Valentine's Day, but hopefully they had a good Valentine's Day and just spread the love.
Absolutely. Thank you again. It was such a pleasure.
Thanks, Ricky.
Oh, such a good conversation. I have such a knack for picking like the best guests ever. Oh my gosh. I'm just surrounded by some really awesome, really inspiring individuals on LinkedIn. And I'm so grateful for the community that I've built. And honestly, I learned so many things from Charlie on this awesome conversation. I hope you guys did as well. I have so much respect for her in the sense that I'm starting my own company as well. And I have completely lost time management skills when it comes to engaging with my audience. I feel like I've just been kind of posting and just letting the chips fall as they may, but she is so responsive and so engaging while being a founder and CEO at the same time. But yeah, she's just a rock star. So glad we got to sit down and have this conversation today. If you don't already follow her, follow Charlie Saffro on LinkedIn. She's incredible. She shares all kinds of tidbits about, creating the best type of culture for your employees and recruiting and the logistics space and all that sort of stuff. You can stand to learn a lot of lessons from her. But thank you guys so much for being here. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, download it, like it, subscribe, share it with your friends. Let's all have some laughs, lessons, and brand new perspectives together. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you on the flip side.